It's almost my birthday month. You know what that means. It's another 40 for 40. So click that button, subscribe, and strap in because this is How to Train Your Dragon. This is me revealing to you that How to Train Your Dragon is one of my favorite films of all time. I don't really have like a number on that, by the way. Like I don't have like a specific like top 100, like a firm. I just kind of like know which films have elevated themselves to, yes, I've seen these a bunch of times. Yes, I feel like I would try to grab these in a fire and take them to a desert island or whatever scenario somebody would throw me in that question. And it has audio description currently on Netflix. And it didn't say it was leaving today, so it should have the audio description in June at least. I don't know how many months after that, but yeah, it's a mystery. I actually enjoy the whole franchise. It started with the first one. I didn't expect the first one to be good. I don't think DreamWorks Animation for me has the same level as Pixar Animation, where there have been so many Pixar animations that have completely and totally just devastated me and moved me to just tears, actual literal tears in the theater. But How to Train Your Dragon was the first movie that really came along and just gave me so much pause. And I was like, this is way better than anything else they've touched in terms of storytelling. Maybe not as funny, but certainly the story and the world and the universe was fantastic. And I was immersed, I was excited, I was glad to be there. And I've long since been like, why is this not a ride on one of the theme parks? How have they not tapped into this? This does not make any sense to me. But our first actually introduces us to Hiccup, who is voiced by Jay Baruchel, who I think is still killing the game. I think he's in Blackberry right now. And Gerard Butler, who is also currently in a film in theaters right now. I believe he's in Kandahar. And he voices the father of Jay Baruchel's character. And some other supporting cast mixed in. America Ferrera plays the eventual love interest character for Jay's Hiccup. And we've got TJ Miller and Christopher Mintz-Plasse, Kristen Wiig, just a bunch of just sort of random voices are thrown in here, just for funsies. Unfortunately, the dragons don't have voices. It's not one of those films. But the character designs on the dragons are really well done. I kind of wish this was a little bit more immersive that way, because I think about this from the perspective of this is like a family film. It's aimed at kids. I'm not 100% sure that a kid is immersed in this audio description. I was not immersed in it. I was not a huge fan of the audio description. I think it does what it needs to by describing the basic points of the story. I think his voice is light. Some of the complaints that I had about, I love Jedediah Barton. I just don't think he was the right person for Treasure Planet. For that same reason, I think the childlike wonder that someone might have with Treasure Planet, or should potentially have, was lost. Here, I think there are aspects of that childlike wonder that are not focused on with some of the more goofier elements, or the personality quirks of Toothless, the dragon, that we end up finding and training vicariously through Hiccup. And I don't know, he's got so many personality quirks and such such a strong emotional connection to Hiccup by the end of the film. I just didn't really feel that. And it's so hard because his character can't talk. So it's like trying to pull all of this out. And I think it tried. I think the narration tried to do that, but it just didn't get it for me. Some of the descriptions of the dragons were kind of basic, and I didn't fully feel like that they did the dragons justice, especially the nightmare. I felt like that was not as well described as perhaps I would have liked it. The other one was I forget what they call it in the actual. I didn't even know it had a name, to be totally honest, until the audio description came along. Like the big red or red dragon or whatever the thing's called that flies up out of the island. Basically, the boss level for the movie. It's one thing I talk about probably more than anything else. Size relativity. There's really no attempt at size relativity here. Other than the fact, if you think about a dragon that's large enough to break out of a mountain. But even that, it's like it's an island mountain. It's like how big is it to begin with? You know, I mean, there's a scene where you see that the dragon is big enough to be able to eat another dragon. You have to understand he's bigger than the ships, and I don't know that that's portrayed. I don't know that his size. If it depends on see, if you think human size, right? You think the other dragons, and you're like, okay, he's flying on them, so how big are they? And unfortunately, there really isn't a whole lot of size relativity in terms of how big is Toothless to Hiccup to begin with. So you're stuck with trying to figure out, well, how big are the original dragons? And they're not all the same size to start off. And then when you throw in sort of the boss dragon at the end, you're like, well, he's a little bit bigger, obviously. Well, he's considerably bigger. I've seen this. I've actually visually, before I lost my vision, I've seen How to Train Your Dragon actually more than once. He's a lot bigger. Freakishly so. He's not even in the same wheelhouse. It's like, it's apples to oranges here, except instead of an orange, you've got, I don't know, like the watermelon, but not just like the normal watermelon, the one that won that like weird county fair watermelon, like world's largest watermelon, versus like an apple that fell from a tree. Like, he's so much bigger than I felt like the audio description gave him credit for. And he does kind of lay waste to a lot of things, and that final battle sequence is hardcore. The thing about it is his size is very cumbersome for him, so he can't. It's not like he's a swiftly moving dragon, because he's morbidly obese for his size. Because basically he hasn't had to fly, and these dragons have just been feeding him all these years as he gets bigger and bigger. So flying is not necessarily his strong suit, which is why some of the other dragons obviously end up beating him in the end. But anyway, size relativity, especially towards the final battle, would have helped actually being able to distinguish who is larger than what, how big are certain things. This is closer towards the beginning of people riding dragons as being like the cool thing, the cool kids club. So if you've been watching like House of the Dragon and you're thinking about them riding those dragons, and maybe you've picked up like size relativity of those dragons versus these dragons, that may not be the same. Some of these dragons are not very big. They're really not much bigger, or they're the same size as their riders. This is a kid's film, so it's it's really not. It's just this boss dragon is in a different world compared to everything else, and I just felt like the audio description did not grasp that. But I've been a fan of the story. I love what it has to say. I feel like nowadays, every time we see something like this, we just attack it as being woke, and then we just like throw it away. We're like, no, we can't have this. And it has a very inclusive storyline about, how just because part of you may not work the way you want it to doesn't necessarily mean you're useless. You just have to figure out how to manipulate the best way possible. And that's exactly what Hiccup does for Toothless, who's injured, and helps him fly. He creates this system, he invents a system, and then lo and behold, he needs one himself by the end of the film. And it's sort of a very poignant moment for us as an audience. It's a very sobering one too, because animated films don't usually end like that. But it's actually kind of great to see that kind of representation for kids who may be a little like Hiccup, to know that they can go out there and train their dragon and conquer the world and earn their dad's approval. They shouldn't have to earn their dad's approval. His dad is a douche in this, by the way. The whole thing where the whole build up where his dad just isn't listening in that scene, and he just kind of stomps off, and he stops and he's like, "You're not my son," and then he just leaves, and I'm like, I know I'm not supposed to want him to get eaten by a dragon, but I'd be fine with it. It's just such an overreact. His character is just so much an asshole. I mean, like when the main villain in the film really is your parent, like what do you do with that? I had the same problem with Turning Red. I was like, man, they're working overtime to make the mom just so extra in this film, and then here they're doing the same thing. Gerard Butler's character is just like, he just has to talk over everybody, because God forbid anybody else talk and actually make reasoning of anything. So and then of course, as soon as he gets into trouble, he's like, what have I done? What have I don't know, dude. You're a terrible leader. You're just an awful leader of people. Why people follow him is just beyond me. But anyway, it's a kids movie, and everything works out lovely in the end. And obviously the community learns to live harmoniously with the dragons, and they train them and live with them and feed them, and they become symbiotic and have pets, and it's very lovely and adorable. And then eventually we'll have a sequel and a third film, and everything just kind of works out. And now, as far as I know, they want to do a live action remake of this, and I don't know why. Please stop live action remaking everything. Please. Please. Did we run out of new ideas? At this level, it's like, I want to support the Writers Guild strike, but we're remaking so many things that it's like, do we have new concepts? Are we producing new ideas at all? Or are we just, do we not care? We should be fostering new ideas, because when something like How to Train Your Dragon comes around, we want to be able to produce it. We can't just be so caught up in producing new versions of old stories that we miss the beauty in a new story being told. So I hope you guys have seen How to Train Your Dragon. It's a great film. I shouldn't have to necessarily be on here, but part of this is me revealing to you the films that I love. And this is definitely, I think this is the most recent addition, like the newest film on my list that I am willing to officially say for certain is on that favorite films list. I think it's been enough time, and I've seen it enough times. It's never degraded for me. I love it every single time. And I've had enough distance from my first viewing to be able to make that judgment call. So it can officially earn its gold star today. So I'm going to give How to Train Your Dragon an A+. Audio description was not my favorite, but it wasn't terrible. It will let you know the action and the key sequences. It's just, as far as opening up your whimsy and wonder in terms of your getting that fantasy side of your brain going with great descriptions of what these dragons look like, or how much bigger or smaller they are, or anything like that. It didn't really do that for me. So size relativity, if I spend the rest of my life talking about that in my reviews, then I guess I'll just spend the rest of my life talking about size relativity in all my reviews. So there you go. One more review with size relativity. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And you can visit my website, macmovieguy.com. You can go to the Audio Description Project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what has audio description and where you can watch it. Also, it has a lot of other things on there too. So just check out the site. It has a lot of questions about if you want to become a narrator, how to go ahead and do that. It's really just a great resource. And the ADNA.org, that's the ADNA.org, is a great tool to use if you want to look up your favorite film or television series and see who's doing narration. That's it for me. And I will review something else for you guys and see you on the other side. Once I've trained my damn dragon. I don't even know where he is anymore. He's just flying around somewhere. I lost him. It's gone.